Hello, peeps and peepettes. This is Spec-Son of InYourHeadOnline.com. Place to be to get all your wrestling news information. Check out the show every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Jack Incher and Barbie Richards bringing it to you all. Great wrestling guests, great stuff every Wednesday. And, of course, the awesome message boards as well on InYourHeadOnline.com, where all of us crazy peeps talk about pro wrestling and all other cool aspects of life. But this is the first edition of Spec Commentaries. Now, Spec Commentaries is not going to be exactly like my show, the Secluded Paradyme. It's not going to be as in-depth, but it's definitely going to be very entertaining. And I'm going to just talk about specific aspects of pro wrestling. You know, and mostly on the recent variety, stuff that happens in the current, not necessarily a lot of stuff that happens in the past. And it's not going to be an every week occurrence. It's not going to be even a monthly occurrence. It's something that, you know, could be once a week. It could be something that I have twice a week. You know, I mean, it may be something that I have only once every 2 months or once every month. Just depends on when I have the time to do it and when I really want to get something off my chest. And right now, the one thing that I'm really thinking about more than anything, in terms of the current status of wrestling, has to do with TNA and their desire, I should say, I guess great choice of words, to rely on the quick fix and recreate ECW in their company. And when I first heard about this, because I really didn't see it all play out on Impact, I don't watch Impact all the time for specific reasons, because I don't think the product is good, and I think the shows are absolutely decrepit at times. But I was told that that TNA was trying to recreate ECW on their program. And at first I was like, oh, well, it seems like typical TNA to do something like that, but I have to see it for myself. And then I tuned into Impact, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it. The kind of like the beginnings of the angle. And I'm on to say, I can't believe they're actually going to do it. And if many of you are shocked, and why I say that, is that TNA has tried to recreate so many stuff in the past. It's ridiculous. Recently they brought in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and thought they'll be the saviors of the company. And I remember saying to myself, I'll give it a chance, but, you know, quite frankly, I think this is a huge mistake. I think it's a waste of time, a waste of money. You're once again taking the focus away from the guys you need to build the focus on. Your homegrown talent, and not necessarily WCW guys, ECW guys, or WWE performers who are future endeavored. To me, it doesn't make any sense. But TNA, they had these guys like Russo and Ferrara, excuse me, and recently Bubba the Love Sponge, go figure, and Dixie Carter, the coup de grace, the woman who absolutely knows nothing about pro wrestling, has absolutely no business in pro wrestling. She's making horrible decisions. She's an attention whore. I said it. Yeah, I said it, and I feel it. I really believe it. You check out her Twitter and give her a tweet about that. I think she's an absolute attention whore for the business, and she doesn't know what she's doing. Quite frankly, she's letting the inmates run the asylum. I just don't understand why Dixie Carter why she's even employed in TNA. But I was checking out this ECW stuff, and this past Thursday was really the first time I really got a really close, in-depth look at what was going on. And I saw the promo with Tommy Dreamer, the other ECW people. Dixie Carter introduced them all and basically kissed their ass, and they're kissing Dixie's ass, and it was one big ECW circle jerk in the middle of the Impact Zone, with the ECW so-called EC-Dub chants from the Impact Zone that was probably cued by some sort of TNA staff member in the studio audience telling those marks what to say and how to say it. I was just saying to myself, I was happy to hear Tommy Dreamer again, because it's been a while since I heard him, since he left one of the last ECW shows, and as well left the WWE. I thought he'd retire, but obviously he didn't. He just left a big six-figure job to join TNA. Go figure. Good luck with that, Tommy. But I saw this, and I was like saying to myself, this is just probably some of the most ridiculous ass-kissing I've ever seen on a program. I wish they'll just let ECW rest in peace. And this goes for the WWE and everybody. WWE finally killed it off, I thought. They first bought the rights, then they threw it right back in the ground. They dug the damn thing back up. They urinated on it. Then they threw it right back down on the dirt. Then they pissed on it some more. And then they washed it down with a water hose. They didn't use soap, those irregular fuckers. And then they had the nerve to bring it back up. And then they tried to recreate it in their own form. And then they brought it back down again. And then they finally killed it. Now TNA, naive as they are trying to do the same thing with ECW, but they're just kissing his ass all over the place. It's been nearly 10 years since ECW folded, folks. It doesn't have the same nostalgia that it would have if you had brought it back for the first time in 2002. But of course, XPW tried to recreate the nostalgia, and you see what happened to XPW. They went as even far as to run the same towns as ECW did to try to get the same product over and use the same wrestlers, and that didn't work because they didn't have the people necessarily in place on creative and the management side of the company to make it work. WWE just really never gave a damn about it that much. They used it for what it's worth. They tried to make as much money off as they can. The one-night stands were just fantastic and a great example of that. Really, the only times ECW really was a success. But now you fast forward about 4 or 5 years later, and now TNA is trying to recreate this ECW nostalgia. It will not work, and history has proved time and time again when you try to recreate stuff from the past that worked for other organizations but will not necessarily work for you, it doesn't pan out. Look at case in point, the AWA tried to recreate a lot of the WWE stuff in the late 80s, and you saw what happened with the AWA. They just couldn't keep up, and it was just a mistake all around for Vern Gagne to even go that far. You look at WCW in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, when Ed Ferrara and even Bischoff to an extent, as well as Vince Russo were there, they tried to recreate WWE Attitude and didn't work. You look at a lot of the stuff that TNA has done over the last 4 years. They try to recreate stuff, the nostalgia of previous wrestlers, whether it be a Kevin Nash, whether it be a Scott Hall or Sean Waltman, or whether it be a Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, or whether it be an ECW alliance. It just will not work. You can't recreate stuff and expect to have similar success that the company or the corporation that originally came up with that idea and had success on occur. It just will not happen. It just doesn't happen in wrestling, and I doubt it really happens in many other businesses unless you have somebody that's in the management part of it and they do it the right way. Well, in the case of ECW is so old, and many people don't even know it. So for the people that don't know it, and TNA is trying to create a new fan base, and they're also trying to gain in casual fans. If the casual fans may not know what ECW is, why even mention it? Because then you have to re-educate them about what ECW was. And also, just by using the ECW name itself is a dumb idea. Because the WWE owns the trademarks to ECW. Every time you mention ECW, every time you showcase former ECW talent, for goodness sakes, Taz is a former ECW champion, and he is with TNA an employee. And he makes ECW references all the time. It can do nothing but help your competition. You think WWE won't hesitate to start creating ECW shirts, showcasing ECW old programming on WWE Classics, and getting bank on all that stuff? Are you kidding me? Or even for the fans to go on WWE.com and go to WWEClassics.com and sign up for, WWE Classics just because they want to see ECW. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of this stuff at TNA doesn't make any sense. I guess to really sum all this up, I will say this. I don't think that this is going to work. I want somebody to actually challenge me on this. What benefit does this have for TNA in the long term? Because it seems like they never plan for the long term. It's always a short-term fix. I'm going to leave you guys with that kind of thought. And I'll check in with you again on another edition of Spec Commentaries. Keep listening to InYourHeadOnline.com. And also keep watching Secluded Paradyme and stay tuned for more editions of Spec Commentaries. I'm Spec Son, and I'm out.